All right, guys. So let's do a little brief intro of how you guys got started in the fitness business, and then how you guys met and kind of got to where you are now.
Tinder, yeah. So I swiped right. I started professionally in fitness at the age of 18 years old as a personal trainer at 24 Hour Fitness, kind of during its heyday, and quickly moved up into management. And just loved it. Loved the fitness industry. Started working out at a very young age. Motivated by
the top, right? That was the
yeah, exactly.
All of us do.
Just worked hard and really enjoyed what I did. And at 22 years old, I left and started my own wellness personal training facility. So I opened up a small facility, and that's where I really. I don't know if the right word, but blossomed into the fitness professional that I am now, and understanding really the holistic side of fitness in the entirety. So, before that, it was very much into resistance training, understanding exercise, correctional exercise, biomechanics. Then when I had my wellness facility, I really learned about nutrition on a different level, things like food intolerances. I learned about the, massage therapy, myofascial release, mindfulness, and, right around that time, I started creating a program called MAPS, which is the programs that we sell through Mind Pump. And
Sal, around what year is this?
This was, let's see. I owned my wellness facility for about 12 years, but I think I first talked to Adam
about 4 or 5 years ago.
About 4 years ago or so. Yeah, and I had heard about Adam because we both worked at 24 Hour Fitness, and we were both like these top performers. So I heard about this guy.
Okay.
Had never really met him. We get on the phone one day. He had contacted me through social media. We get on the phone and we just start talking about everything that we everything we see in the fitness industry, the direction we see it going, what we hate about the fitness industry. And it was going to be a 10-minute conversation. Ended up turning into an hour and a half. And we decided we need to do a podcast.
It was love at first sight.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We met up, and I met Justin, who's our other co-host, and it was fire.
Wow.
From then on, that's how Mind Pump started.
We have a very similar story.
It's amazing because I would have assumed you guys were friends for like 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
No, not at all. I physically met Adam and Justin 6 months maybe, or 3 months even, before we started Mind Pump.
Yeah.
They had known each other for a long time, and me and the producer, Doug, he was actually one of my clients when I was a trainer, so I'd known him for a while, but it was just, we all sat down. It was great chemistry. We had great conversation, and it was like, okay, podcast has got to be, this is perfect.
Yeah.
And that's where it started.
We have a very similar story for sure. I mean, I definitely think that, I don't want to bore the audience with the same thing, because we came up the same company. Where I think that we came together when we started to build a podcast was when we realized all the people we didn't help. Going through the company, we used to measure our success off of revenue, right? Like how much money the company was making,
sure,
how much personal training you sold, how many clients you were bussing in and out. And it really wasn't about our people, because if you look back, and if I was being honest with myself and said, okay, all the thousands of people I potentially trained, how many of them actually did I change their lives? It had to have been less than 20%. And, a lot of that is just because the information that we were receiving as trainers was geared towards the growth of this monster company.
Yeah.
And so when we started to put that together, and it didn't happen for me for like almost 10 years before I started to realize that a lot of this stuff is fluff. I'm really not helping my people out. And that when I branched away from the corporate life and fitness, did I really start to seek out like good information and good knowledge. And that's how I got caught up with Sal. Was I saw things that he was posting on Facebook, because at that time he was heavy into Facebook and used to write these long old posts and get into political battles with people on the internet.
Yeah, we won't get into that.
So he used to do all that, and I started reaching out to him because I saw a lot of stuff that he was writing and talking about. And I'm like, hey, dude, this guy gets it. Like, there's not a lot of people I feel like that really understand fitness and wellness and where it needs to go and where it's currently at now. And like you said, when we got in that room, man, in fact, my girlfriend at the time, was in the living room or in the kitchen while we were in the living room, and she turned her iPad on. That is recorded. I haven't even heard it since then. This was almost 3 years ago, but that conversation is recorded.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah, we'll have to pull it out.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. One day we'll pull it out and check it out, see exactly how much of it we predicted that we would do and where we're at now in comparison. But that's what motivated us to get together. Was when we first started the podcast, we did not realize exactly where it was going to go. We just knew that somebody needed to come out and
and say something.
Yeah, say something about where this is going. And I feel like the timing was perfect, because guys like you, your podcast is very similar to this too, is the raw, the real, and being transparent. And that, to me, that message is becoming more popular. But 10, 15 years ago, that wasn't that. It was, marketing to people's insecurities. Looking at people, you want to be big or you want to be buff, or, oh, you're fat, you need to be skinny, and like finding ways to market to these people through making them feel guilty or making them feel
Well, it's just terrible that we have this obesity and health epidemic that's been exploding, and the fitness industry is supposed to be the answer. It should be the answer. Obviously, Western medicine isn't, right? The medical community is not solving it. We're supposed to be the answer, but instead we become part of the problem. Look at gyms, for example. Look at the big box gyms. Their business model is literally designed to sign you up and you never come in.
Well, if everybody showed up, right? The fire marshal would be there.
Fucked.
And so and that's terrible. And it's
actually need you to back. You got
I'm back.
Voice.
So. No, yeah, I do. I do. I got a problem with that on my podcast too.
But the only time I've ever had to turn someone's mic lower than mine.
You got the same thing with your voice going on.
We should have told him that, because at the studio, if somebody comes over to our facility, right? Because we have a bunch of mics set up. If someone uses Sal's, it's always like takes 15, 20 minutes to recalibrate. Doug has to turn his
two loudmouth Italians.
I was made to talk. Yeah, exactly. You know exactly what that's like.
Exactly. So sorry, I cut you off there.
Yeah. So the fitness industry should be the answer, and unfortunately, it isn't. It's causing more problems. And I'll tell you what, you know this as well as we do. When you get into fitness and you talk to people who are really into fitness, personal trainers, bodybuilders, physique competitors, bikini, the people that are supposed to be fit and is supposed to exemplify health, have some of the worst eating disorders, have some of the worst health, and they're promoting ideas that aren't helping the average person. And again, it's an industry based on insecurities. It's based on a lot of the information is designed to sell you products. All the myths that we learned, growing up in the fitness industry. I mean, I remember when I first realized that eating every 2 hours wasn't necessary. Not only was it not necessary, but it was kind of a myth. And then realizing, well, that makes sense. They would promote it that way because now I have to buy protein bars and eat these 6 or 7 meals throughout the day. And that just took me down the rabbit hole of really realizing that a lot of the information isn't accurate. And as well as we do, open up a magazine or go on the internet. How much of the information do you read is accurate?
That's where I was most surprised. So when I started to build, I turned my Instagram and Facebook on with the intention that I was going to build a business. I was not us older guys. I feel like Facebook, Instagram, MySpace, that shit was not.
How old are you guys?
So I'm
38.
36. He's 38.
Yeah.
I was not into any of that stuff, but I was very interested in some of these people that I had met that had built these successful businesses off of social media, off of a Facebook. I met a kid, in fact, somebody who works for us now was somebody who inspired me to head down this direction. He had a business, a 6-figure business that he built off of Facebook. And I was so fascinated that you could make that much money off of a following on Facebook. So when I turned on Instagram and Facebook, I turned it on with the intention, okay, I'm going to build a business around it. And at that time, I was coming out of the medical marijuana industry. I'd fallen out of shape. I was in the worst shape of my life. I thought, oh, this is perfect. I'm going to do a whole documentary of my transformation from fat to fit. And I started documenting it. And I think I started at like 19.7% body fat. And I worked my way all the way down. So I said, I was the fattest I'd ever been in my life. And I'm going to go to the fittest. And I'd never seen anything below 8 or 9% body fat. So that was the goal. It took me about 6 months or so. I get down to 7% body fat. I built a pretty, sizable following. I think I had about 10,000 people that were following me on my social media platforms at that time. And I was like, okay, well, this obviously gained a lot of traction. Let's take this a step further. I'm going to get on stage. And at that time, I had no desire to compete. I didn't wake up one day. I didn't follow bodybuilding like Sal did. I wasn't into all I didn't know anything about that world. I just thought, well, shit, if I could do this, and that gained a lot of traction. Like, what if I take it to the elite level and get up on stage? So I decided to do that. I said, okay, I'm going to compete in my very first show. I'm going to coach myself, do all that on my own. And I started getting ready for a show. And I'll never forget the first time I'm standing backstage and I'm talking to all these competitors. And they're telling me about the way they're dieting and they're eating and they're training. And I'm just like, what the fuck are these guys doing? Like, who's giving you this information? Like, now they look good. They're in shape. So obviously they've got work ethic and discipline to get there. But I'm listening to the information that they're getting from their coaches to get them in the shape. And I'm going like, wow, this is not very. But then I thought, okay, well, this is the amateur level. Probably at the pro level,
sure.
These guys, they're dialed. They know their shit. Well, long story short, I worked my way from amateur up to a professional in men's physique, right? And when I got there, the same thing again. I'm backstage, got all these pros, incredible physiques. Now I'm with all the covers of magazines. So all my peers are the guys, when you walk through Safeway and you look at all those magazines, I know most all these dudes.
Okay.
Hung out with all of them and talked to all of them about dieting and nutrition, and all of them have got terrible information. I'm thinking, holy shit, like, these are the people that people are aspiring to be like, that we open up these magazines and think like they got to be, look how awesome they look. They must have all the right information, and they don't. They were giving terrible information. At that same time was when we got linked up and we were getting ready to start Mind Pump, and I'm like, dude, I got to share this. This is crazy to me. It was blowing my mind that at this level of fitness that these guys they don't have it, and that people need to realize that you can look that way aesthetically, but doesn't necessarily mean you're healthy and you're going to be able to keep that long term. And so I was very, very fascinated with it, but it blew my mind. Like, I don't know how familiar you are with that
sure.
world, but
Definitely.
it was crazy, man. It was crazy what I saw and what's happening in that industry. And I think in all the years that I've been training now for over 15 years, clients, I saw more eating disorders and a worse relationship with exercise and food in the competitive world than I ever saw.
Makes total sense. Yeah.
Thousands of people that work.
Well, these people, you compete, right? You got to starve yourself and do extreme exercise, and then afterwards gain 30 pounds in like 2 weeks.
It doesn't have to be that way. No. That's the crazy part.
But that's what happens.
It doesn't have, you don't have.
And the metabolic damage that you see sometimes afterwards is just, I'd get these, competitors these bikini competitors, 120 pound female who's doing an hour and a half of cardio every single day, eating 1,000 calories. And if she changes any of that, she gains weight like crazy, like just completely destroyed her metabolism. And that's so rampant in that particular part of the industry.
Yeah. It's funny, what you're talking about makes me think of what we were talking about before we started recording. And I don't think I've even discussed this on the air. I was telling you guys before, after 20 years from 19 to 39, I kind of got burnt out on what I was doing. Some of it was because of my disgust with a lot of things in the fitness industry that you're talking about. I was like, this is so fucked. I don't even know if I'm into this anymore. Like so much weird shit I was saying. And then when you're talking about the marketing and making people feel insecure, I was a victim of that for so long.
Oh, same here.
And I was like, this sounds crazy to say, but fitness, like, not ruined my life, but fucked me up in a lot of ways. Like, I did so many stupid things and ate myself to 230 pounds, and neither of my parents is over 130 pounds, and like just stupid training methods and that obsessive lifestyle. Like, there was days in my early 20s where I was like, I can't go out, I can't drink, I can't fucking do anything, I gotta eat every 2 hours, I got squat day tomorrow. And it's like, I don't want to preach that message. I don't want to be part of that. Like, it was stressing me out a little bit,
Well, that's just exactly what I mean, right?
That's exactly the experience that we had. The things I did to my body, gosh, man, the supplements I took and the things I did and the way I trained. And I'd set my alarm at 2:00 in the morning so I could wake up to drink a fucking shake, right? Because I got to have all these calories to gain weight. And I'm not
about this. I did that to my brother when he was like 15 in high school. I wake him up in the middle of the night. I was like, dude, Dan Duchesne said you got to do this.
Yeah, because that's what's going to make you grow, right? Imagine my mind as I start to learn. I remember it must have been, let's see, I'm 38 now, so I think I was 30. And the book, The Warrior Diet, came out by, who wrote that? Was it Ori Hofmeckler, right? And there was this forum on bodybuilding.com of all these guys who were like, man, you don't need to eat like all the time. You can fast. Oh, sorry. Yeah. You don't need to eat so frequently. It's okay. So I remember reading all the stuff, reading all the science. At the time I was dealing with like gut issues, because this is, of course, after 15 years of just hammering my body.
300 grams of protein.
I can't handle food anymore, right? So I tried it and I fasted. And for sure, I thought to myself, like, I'm going to have no energy.
Yep.
I'm going to have a shitty workout. I'm going to lose 5 pounds. By tomorrow, I'm going to get on the scale and lose 5 pounds of muscle. And instead, I had more energy. I had a great workout.
Yeah.
I wasn't losing muscle. And it was just like my mind blew up. And I was just like, holy crap, what else that I think was true is complete bullshit. And I went down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And like you, I just became disgusted with all the stuff I realized that was absolute bullshit.
Yeah.
Well,
dude, to be honest, and again, I don't know if I've admitted this either. No, I actually did just recently on a podcast with my friend. for many years of my fitness career, you didn't see a picture of me or a video of me or me on a podcast because I was so insecure about how I looked and everything. And even when I was on Elite Fitness with Dave Tate and those guys, I was 230. I was fat, but I was way bigger than I am now. But I was still like, I'm not big enough for people to trust me. Even though I was in the gym 12 hours a day doing so I was a victim of all that shit, you know?
I mean, it's what motivated all of us. We talk about this. I mean, I was a 6'3", 145 pounds, dude. I was a rail.
Wow.
I used to have this picture that I kept in my office. It was me drying myself off. I was on a beach in Hawaii, and you could see like my complete rib cage.
Wow.
I was an athlete. I played a lot of sports, and I could not keep up calories with the amount of activity that I was doing.
Yeah.
And I couldn't put that together. And what that sent me down, because I was insecure of not being bigger, then I got into being a personal trainer. And then I'm like this skinny personal trainer, like you said. Yeah. Like, who's going to trust me to build muscle if I'm this skinny kid? That led me down the steroid path. So I went from 23-ish to about 26 of experimenting with steroids, because I thought, like, okay, the real difference between me and the guys on the magazine is the steroids. Like, it's not the programming, it's not the nutrition. I know I'm a trainer, I should know this stuff. That's the thing that separates me, is I need to take anabolics if I want to look that way. And I couldn't be further from the truth. And I did it for a good solid 3 or 4 years off and on. And now here I am in my mid-30s where I actually have to take hormone replacement just to be fucking normal now.
Yeah.
And so a lot of this stuff that we talk about on the show, we're passionate about it because, fuck, we did it. We fell for it.
Right.
Exactly. I fell for it. It drove me down the road. This guy's got all kinds of gut issues that he's got going on. I've got skin issues that I got. It's like, I know it's because I was pounding speed stacks and eating 4 bars a day and taking steroids. I mean, all the stuff that we did. And when you pull yourself out and if you actually can have some perspective and go like, what the fuck? And I'm not an insecure, I'm a confident guy. What made me go that? Well, they market that way and they're fucking good at it, man. They're very, very good at it.
And the irony of it all is when I started to really understand these things and started to become better with myself.
I can actually hear his voice vibrate. You must be amazing at oral sex. Like, it's vibrating.
My bad.
No, it's great. I love it.
So when I
don't get too close to John.
No problem. when I started to examine these things and change my training and my nutrition, the irony of it all is I looked better than I ever had before. It was like all of a sudden it was easy to get lean and muscular, and
training less, I'm eating less. What's going on?
I was stronger. I was pulling more weight off the floor, and that's the irony of it all. Was not only was it wrong, but it was not only was it wrong for my health, but it didn't build muscle better. It didn't make me leaner faster. It was wrong on all counts. And that was the part that really, and that's what led me down the path of creating some of our exercise programming, and then all of us creating workout programming for people, because it was like, people are working out wrong and they're eating wrong. And if we just kind of educate them a little bit, they'll trip out. And sure enough, that's what happened.
Well, you go down that. I mean, so our host who's not here, Justin, he loves to talk about this piece is, he has even more so than myself, because he went all the way and played sports at the college level. And, it's hard to separate the athlete from the person who's trying to get in shape for health and wellness, because you have that athlete mentality. And I'm sure that you can relate to this where, when you were training for a sport, it's like you kill it, you get after it, because you want to be able to go through the gauntlet. But then when you're training for overall health, wellness, or aesthetics, you're trying to change your body, it's a different focus and a different mentality that you have to head into working out and training. And we talk a lot about the beast mode, no days off, kill it, that type of mentality. Because it's
part of me dies every time I see one of those.
Right, me too. I mean, when I see that stuff, I'm like, God, it's just feeding into this. It's not helping the cause. Like, that's not. But I was that same person. Like, here I was trying to get bigger, and this is why it's what drove me to the steroids. Had I stopped playing basketball twice a day, wakeboarding, snowboarding, training 7 days a week, sometimes double days, I probably would have grew a little bit. I probably would have put some size on. I didn't need to go the anabolic route. I probably could have just laid off all the burning, but I didn't understand that, at that time in my life, because I had this idea that, the harder I pushed, the more I trained, the more muscle that I would build. And it doesn't work that way. So
to counter what you just said, though, I'm glad you didn't give up all those other things, because that's part of it that I hate too. Is because I did that, and
you went the other route.
Up all their sports and shit. I'm like, I can't play any sports. I just got to train, sleep, and eat. I'm like, dude, you're gonna regret that in 10 years.
It's funny. What's funny about that too is not being, and it's because I understand what you're saying, because I would do that. Like, I'd lift and then be like, cool, now I'm gonna sit on the couch and grow. Like, I'm just gonna sit here and rest. I can't burn calories. The irony of that is if you do that extreme route, you don't build muscle as well either. I mean, people can experiment with this on their own. Like, go to the gym, hammer the shit out of your legs, like beat them up, like just destroy them, and then go stay in bed for a week.
Yeah.
Don't get out of bed for a week.
Right.
And I guarantee you will lose muscle and lose strength, even though you're fully recovered. You go back to the gym and you'll be much weaker.
Yeah.
So even that opposite, end of the spectrum.
Yeah. The first time I was actually introduced to that concept was through Louis. Like, I was really into West Side stuff and Louis for a while in the early 2000s, late 90s. And I was doing the eat, sleep, rest, all that shit. And what was it, like super squats and all that?
Yeah.
Like, don't walk when you can run, don't run when you can sit down, all that. And then Louis was like, nah, that's completely fucking wrong. Drag the sled every day. And I did that. My recovery went through the roof, Just like light shit.
Frequency.
Yeah.
Frequency, that's I'm glad you brought that up. Especially in the muscle building world. And it's funny because it wasn't like this originally. If you go back in time and you look at like the original strongmen and bodybuilders, routines were built around frequency, training body parts more frequently.
Yeah.
Somewhere around the 50s, 60s, when steroids got introduced into bodybuilding, it moved towards this body part split type of training where people trained each body part once a week.
Yeah.
And what people don't realize is if you're on anabolics, you've got this loud anabolic signal, this hormonal one. You don't need to train the body so frequently. You can hit it hard.
Just letting it lay on the couch.
That's it. But if you're natural, that muscle building signal lasts for about 48 hours, maybe 72 hours most. And after that, it starts to dip, even if you're still recovering.
Yeah.
And this was huge when I really learned this, and I understood that there is a difference between building muscle, adaptation, and recovery. You can have to recover, but that muscle building signal can fall off. And so throwing in some more frequency, albeit with lower intensity, keeps that muscle building signal elevated and you build more muscle. And that's what what you're talking about, where you did your hard workout, but then you're driving the sled. You're not going balls out to failure on the sled, but you're moving and you're keeping recovery, and you're keeping that muscle building signal elevated. And this
I remember Louis would say, I train every day, I'm never sore.
It's very true. And frequency is one of those things that it's the principle I think is sorely missed in today's muscle building routines, where it's all about, break muscle down, hammer yourself, and then totally rest. Where in reality, you're going to be better off rather than doing, here's a good experiment for your listeners. It's very, very simple. If you're doing a body part split and you're working out, chest on Monday for 21 sets, take all those 21 sets and split it up over 3 days. So you're doing the same total volume for the whole week. You're doing 7 sets on Monday, 7 sets on Wednesday, 7 sets on Friday. Same exercises, same total volume. You will build more muscle because the frequency's gone up and you're sending that muscle building signal more frequently. It just works better for most people. Not everybody, but most people it works that way. So that was another mind-blowing thing.
And to touch upon that, what I like about that is what we're saying, I think everybody should train to be ready for life at any given, go play beach volleyball, go surfing. Like if you train that way, if you do 21 sets of chest, it's fucking hard to play volleyball or surf the next day. Like you're sore every day. You're demolished. You know what I mean?
You start to look at quality of life.
You're never really ready for stuff.
Exactly. It's quality. You're looking for quality of life, and really that's about enjoying what you do. Now, if you want to be a bodybuilder and you want to be super massive, and that's something you're truly enjoying, then that's absolutely fine as well. But there can be a nice balance. You can look aesthetic, muscular, functional, and enjoy your life, and not live in this constantly, carrying my food around with me everywhere I go, and I have to do this super hard workout, and then I can't walk for the rest of the day type of lifestyle.
Now, how do you guys counter the argument adding frequency to dysfunction is going to fuck you up?
Absolutely. So what you train or what you do most is the recruitment pattern that you're going to have. That's going to become your default. So if you have dysfunction, the more you train within that dysfunction, the stronger that dysfunction becomes. So the key then becomes is to correct the dysfunction and then do that frequently. So for example, if I'm doing a squat.
This is our most recent program we just did.
We just created a program around this.
We just created a program called MAPS Prime Pro, which is to address this. And as far as I don't know anybody else that's done something like this, but we created an at-home test. And we split the body up in 3 zones, right? So we basically split upper, mid, and then lower.
And then even further with Prime Pro, we go into the neck, the lumbar spine, the wrist, the hands, the feet. The feet, man, people don't realize just how important or just how dysfunctional our feet are, because we've been, ever since we were walking, we've been putting shoes on, and how that translates to your deadlift and squat and your overhead press, just coming from the feet, But frequency is extremely important. And if you're training a new pattern, I think the big problem is when people train too heavy. because if you go too heavy, your body will revert to its default recruitment pattern, because that's your strongest pattern. So even if it's an incorrect one, even if it's a bad recruitment pattern, that's the one your body's best at and you're strongest with it at that moment. Now, of course, if you correct it, the potential is much higher. And I use the analogy of typing. If I typed for 10 years and only used my 2 index fingers and did the kind of hunt and peck way of typing, and someone tried to teach me the correct way to type, well, for the first 3 months, I'm going to be faster with my 2 fingers. That's my default pattern. I'm better at that. But eventually, learning how to type the right way, I'm going to surpass it even more. Yeah. And so this is what happens when you're trying to correct.
Put that work in.
Yeah, put that work in.
I saw you did that on Instagram, right? You said you backed off all your weights for a while.
So what happened to me was, and this was pretty wild for me, because I was always, I trained functional training for a very long time. I've always been, I told you I wakeboarded, snowboarded, basketball. I was always a sport guy, so pretty athletic. Until I got in this competing thing.
Right.
And then I became solely focused on aesthetics. And that's all I cared about, how I looked in the mirror and how I looked on stage. And for 2.5 years, I trained this way. And I'll never forget, it was one night, my girlfriend, Katrina, she's talking to me, and she was telling me about this guy that she saw in the gym do this like cool pistol squat. And she's like, oh yeah, he did this pistol squat and he did this. And I'm like, oh, I used to do that shit on a Bosu ball balancing, right? And she's like, no, you didn't. And I said, and I hop out of bed, it's like midnight, hop out of bed, I'm naked, get out on my wood floor, and I go to do a pistol squat and I can't fucking do it. And I just and it's not that I don't have the strength, my legs are strong, I don't have the connection. I've lost that, and I can feel it, like going down. I went, whoa! And for the first time, this was just like 3 years ago or so when I noticed this, and I was.
No, it was even sooner. It was when we had Mind Pump. Yeah.
2 years ago when it happened, because I was competing, right? So it's 2 years ago when it happened, and I was like, whoa, this is crazy. I never had felt that, and so then I was kind of like testing my mobility and realized like, oh shit, I'd lost my mobility. Yeah. And this was actually when we started to seek out Dr. Brink, who we partnered up when we actually wrote the
brilliant movement specialist that we discovered. Very, very smart guy.
Dr.
Justin Brink.
Yeah. Okay. And he just broke me down. I'll never forget walking into his place, and he's a chiropractor by trade, but the guy's a movement specialist, has all kinds of certifications, degrees. And I come in and he goes, take your shoes off, just walk for me. And then he had me get down and squat, and then he literally broke me all the way from my toes all the way up on all the dysfunction, what was going on. And then I spent the next year addressing all those things, but I couldn't even squat past parallel for a good solid year there. And it's been quite the journey to get back.
I'm doing it right now. I'm trying to work on my lower body mobility. I got really bad with it just because I started chasing numbers with deadlifts and squats, and I don't squat more than. And I'm a guy who when I'm at my strongest, I can squat about 400 pounds. I don't lift over 135, 155 pounds right now in the squat because
that's great for people to hear.
Well, when I start adding weight, when I go up to 200, 300 pounds, my old recruitment patterns start to kick in, and I'm trying to erase those. I'm trying to override those with a new one, and I can't do that if I'm going heavy. So it's a major pain in the ass in the sense that it's a check on the ego. Yeah. I'm going to the gym or whatever, and I got one plate on the bar, and here I am squatting. I'm the host of a fitness podcast. And I can't squat 135 pounds, but I know I can see already. I can see what's happening. I can see the benefit, and I know once I work my way back up that I'm going to be able to squat those heavy weights again, but better, deeper, with more control.
Well, Jay, you did a lot of. I know you've trained a lot of professional athletes and stuff. So what I started to realize was, some of these athletes that looked the most awesome, could perform so great at their sport, had some of the most dysfunctional.
So they're just really good at compensating.
Yeah, they're great at compensating. They're great at their sport, whatever it is. And so when I started to put that together, when I realized like, oh man, these people we all look at as like they're super fit, right? Well, then why can't he perform this squat all the way down below 90 degrees? Or why can't he move? Or why can't he balance? I thought, whoa, that's crazy. And that really opened my eyes when I started to notice these professional athletes that weren't able to move and do these things. And I think people need to know that, because we idolize a lot of these professional athletes just like we idolize these bodybuilders that, we want to look this way or we want to perform that way. When, well, you don't know everything. Like, a lot of people don't realize that training this way all the time, you create these bad patterns. And the more bad patterns we have, the longer it takes to break those. And you got to regress the weight. And tell you what, man, it's tough being grown men in the bodybuilding type of world and industry to have to regress the weight. Like I don't have a cool post for you to show you me squatting 600 pounds and doing that, because I'm in there with 107 pounds and I'm working with my stick and I'm doing like mobility stuff. It's not cool. It's not sexy, but it's what needs to be done. And I think that's something that we've tried to stay true to, is that, you know what?
I love that you're both doing that. I wish I did that. I wish I could go back to 20 and have trained like that from day.
Right. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
You know? And that's why we share it like that. I was like, yeah, you know what? I wish someone at 36 was telling me when I was 22, listen, kid, make sure you do all these things because you're going to pay. I remember teaching foam rolling, stretching, and these things to my clients, but never doing it myself.
Right.
Because I didn't feel I needed it. I didn't have aches. I didn't have pains. I didn't deal with any of that.
Yeah, no, I was the same way. Right. I was just thinking recently of 2 clients that I used to train that were 40, and I'm going to be 43 in 3 weeks. And they had all these issues, and I was like, they're fucked. I'm never going to have it. Yeah. And I let myself develop all those same issues, and now I got to do all that stuff.
And when you think about it, we're fitness professionals, so if anyone shouldn't have that, it would be us. Like we should, but that also opened my eyes too, that if we, with all the training and as we as well, we're all versed in biomechanics, if we get those imbalances and issues, God, imagine the average Jane or Joe who's sitting at a desk all fucking day and is not aware of their posture.
It might even be more difficult to correct an imbalance or a pattern on someone who's well trained than somebody who's deconditioned.
Yeah.
You know, I think someone who's deconditioned, it's like you're teaching them something new, but when you have someone that's been doing something with lots of weight and developed
these
resistance.
That would be a great debate. That would be a good debate. I could probably argue the proprioception side of like the benefits.
Sure.
Who's been training for a long time.
Yeah, that's true.
That'd be a good argument to go back.
Then there's the mental piece of it, you know, like you're training somebody who's, you know, super fit, but working out for a long time, and now you're telling them that they have to regress.
Yeah.
Like that's a difficult thing to do.
Exactly, yeah. I would tend to agree with your first one. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
But like think about it like in sports. Like if someone has been, you know, and they go to a hitting coach and they change, it's really hard to change.
As they say about golf or baseball, right? Like go get yourself a coach first to teach you good, because once you've established those bad mechanics, regressing and then coming back is like most guys just say, fuck it, I got to get better at the way I already do it.
It's funny you say that, because martial arts instructors will even say that. Like if you go to a kickboxing instructor and you did Taekwondo for years, they'll say, oh God, you're going to be so tough to teach how to kick. I'd rather have a beginner,
100%.
you know, because you solidified that patterning, you know, in your system.
Yeah. It's funny, I stopped squatting and deadlifting for the first time when I was 31. And at that point, I had worked up to really heavy weights for me, but with shitty form, you know, like my squat was awful. And I stopped for the entire summer when I moved to New York, and I was just training in Tompkins Square Park, famous park where you see all the bodyweight guys and everything. And at the end of that summer, my vertical and my speed was way up. Just because I had fucked myself up so much, I actually ruined my athleticism from squatting incorrectly and just pulling way too heavy for years, you know?
I played in a men's basketball league all the way until I was 30 years old. And what made me finally hang it up was at 27, I tore my ACL, MCL. At 28, I had a level 3 sprain on my ankle. And then 29, I did both ankles. And I was like, I got to do something. Like, what's going on? And I remember when I first hung it up, you know, I did just like what probably everybody else does. Oh, I'm getting old. I can't do these things anymore. Yeah. When really it was like, no, I have issues I need to address. Yeah. And now they're revealing themselves. At 25, I could skate by and not pay attention to that stuff and still play the sport fine. But now that I've gotten older, I've established these patterns for so long, and now it's catching up to me. Yeah. And so I think that drove a lot of the passion when we talk about mobility and doing those things and taking your ego. It's hard, man. We talk about lifting weights and getting big and building muscle, but then also trying to separate the ego out of that. It's fucking tough to do.
Well, a lot of this goes back to selling fitness that we were talking about before, where if an athlete comes to you and they have 90 days, a purist might say, oh, they should just squat and bench and clean. And then you look at them and they're like, dude, it's going to take them 90 days to do those exercises with a dowel. You know what I mean? Like they should be doing single leg RDLs and single leg squats and whatnot. And that's a hard sell, as you know. Like if a guy comes into your gym and everyone else is squatting and pulling, they're all fired up and it's awesome. They're like, no, you just got to do step ups for the next 90 days.
Here's your broomstick, bro.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what they really need. Yeah. So as a coach, you can find the balance of giving them hard work and shit like that. But on the internet, that's even harder to sell.
It's very difficult. And it was when we first started Mind Pump, one of our most popular episodes was why Mind Pump doesn't CrossFit. One of our biggest issues with the CrossFit community was exactly that people were doing these Olympic lifts. They were doing them to fatigue. They had no business doing something. I mean, you know, as
in
well.
other countries, you're using that broomstick for like 2 years.
That's, you know, as well as we do, like the most complex lifts, bar none, hands down, are Olympic lifts. There is no lift more complex than the Olympic lifts. And these are movements that if you do them properly, they're safe, but there's an extremely fine line where if your form is off a little bit, it becomes very dangerous. And what's the first thing to go when you fatigue? Your form. And so we saw people doing these movements and fatigue-based type programming, and they had horrible form, and so we kind of railed against it. Now, of course, you see CrossFit start to change a little bit with their methods. They're bringing people on like Kelly Starrett, and I mean, absolutely brilliant. But that was our big problem with it initially, was exactly that people were coming in and they were just thrown into this intense training system with no workup, and it takes a long time. Olympic lifting. If I take a new client and I'm going to teach them how to do a snatch, God, man, you're going to be training for a year just to learn how to do a snatch with no weight.
Anybody who's over 30 years old that hasn't been training that way
probably shouldn't be doing a snatch.
Probably shouldn't be. There's
not unless you're going to compete in.
Unless you were just absolutely blessed and you were just walking around the anatomical position, which nobody is. Nobody walks around like that. Everyone's got deviation, and even more so than ever now with desks and computers and shit that we do now.
Definitely.
So I don't see anybody. There's definitely not a client that could ever hire me at 30 years old and say, "Hey, Adam, teach me a snatch," and I'd be like, "Oh, we'll be doing that next week." Let's actually see how you walk and move and squat down normal first before we rip it up over your head.
Well, the irony of all of this is when you train properly, when you understand function, you understand mobility, you apply exercise programming the right way, you actually get faster results, better results. You really do.
Yeah.
That's the irony of it. I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that we think that you have to make a decision, fast results or do it the right way. That's actually not the case. Now, can you lose weight faster doing it the wrong way? Initially you can, but you definitely ain't going to keep it off, and you're going to create problems for yourself. So the reality is, the truth is, doing things the right way, understanding function, understanding how to train to learn how to do these compound movements, even the basic ones like your deadlifts, your squats, your overhead presses, training imbalances, working up to be able to do those, working within full ranges of motion, or at least gaining better ranges of motion and training within those ranges of motion, you're going to get better results. You're going to look better. You're going to move better. I mean, everything aesthetically, forget the movement. You're going to look better faster.
The problem is though, and I feel like there's only a handful, and Jay, you have a podcast that does this, but very few podcasters have guys like ourselves that look like we look, but then talk about that stuff. Yeah. And I feel like we always want to be put in a box, right? Everybody wants to put us in a box or a camp. And you've got your crunchy, hippie, yoga, mobility guys, and that's all they do. They don't ever fucking lift any heavy weight, which they probably could use some of that in their life. And then you have the aggressive, heavy lifting, power lifter, meathead type guys. And it's like really they should meld together.
Well, they can learn a lot from each other.
Yeah, right. They both need to learn to kind of work together. They both have incredible benefits, and neither one should exist without the other. Yeah. But I feel like we get in these camps,
that's what causes a lot of problems.
Yeah,
for sure.
It does. We divide each other when really it's health, fitness, wellness is all of it. And then learning to try and mesh that and have that balance, I think.
One of the first things
the mindset that you guys have, because I've gotten that, I've adapted that, not that anymore as I've gotten older, that fitness should enhance your life and it should just be part of your life. For so many years, it kind of fucked up my life and was my life, and a lot of people let that happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember the first time I actually dived a little bit into yoga. I was never a big yoga practitioner. I never have been, but I was convinced to take yoga, and I was convinced to make it a practice on a weekly basis for a few months. And I never forget lifting weights, and I was stronger. Like I'd go squat and I could squat more weight, or I could deadlift more weight, and it just blew me away. And I was like, why don't people know this? Like you could do yoga and incorporate that with your resistance training and get stronger. Like more dudes would do this if they only knew. And you're starting to see that a little bit, actually. I think the tide is starting to turn a little bit. People are starting to become a little more informed, and I'm happy. I couldn't be happier to see that.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about, you mentioned frequency. I want to get your guys' take on volume, intensity.
Extremely individual, right? It's extremely individual. The key is to do the least amount of work to get the most benefit or the most adaptation. And the reason why you want to do that is because if you throw too many things at your body all at once, one of two things can happen. Either A, it adapts and then you're screwed, you got nothing left. Or B, what usually happens is you fry yourself out. Usually it's the central nervous system that takes the beating. A lot of people don't realize that the CNS requires longer recovery or should be considered more than muscle. Muscle, you break it down, it gets sore, not a big deal. The CNS gets affected by lots of things like sleep, stress, intense exercise can override that. So, but it's very individual when it comes to volume and intensity.
Do you guys adhere to the like Charlie Francis high-low type? Like if you do something CNS intensive?
No, I'm not. No.
So it's basically, I'm sure you do. So if you do something CNS intensive today, lift 90% or above, sprint, jump, you should do something low intensity tomorrow.
So our programs actually follow something similar. Okay. So our programs will have what we call foundational workouts, which are more intense workouts, and then
squatting, deadlifting.
Yeah, and you're going heavier and more intense. And in between, we put in frequency builders. So in one of our programs, MAPS Anabolic, we incorporate what we call trigger sessions. And what a trigger session is let's say yesterday I did my heavy workout. So I did my hard, heavy workout. Today, I'm going to pick up some bands, and bands are excellent for this because they don't seem to damage muscle as much as weights or chains or even body weight exercises. So I'll grab some bands and I'll do some light pumping movements, and I'll work for a little bit of a burn in the muscle. I'll get a little bit of a pump. I'm not going to failure. It's not a workout. I'm just getting blood in the muscle. I'm feeling it work, and it's maybe a 5 to 10 minute session. Okay. And you do that 2 or 3 times during that day. Okay. And then the following day you go back and you do your heavy workout again.
Will you ever use BFR bands during that?
So BFR is
blood flow restriction.
Yeah, or occlusion training otherwise, right?
Yeah. We wrote a guide, 2.5 years on that when we first started to read. I mean, that was very fascinating when I came across it. I remember the first time I came across it, I told these guys, like, dude, you got to look into this. This is cool. What we're learning about.
So occlusion training is fascinating. It does because of the waste that builds up in muscle, which stimulates muscle growth. It's a very effective tool that you can utilize. However, utilizing it too frequently will also set you back. Okay. So what I found with people and clients is that occlusion training is effective to be thrown in once or twice a week with at the end of your foundational workouts,
or just intermittently into your program. That's typically how we recommend it. Why that is because I remember when we first started testing it. Because before we wrote the guide, of course, we were all playing with it, testing it, and tracking stuff. I found myself starting to replace my other workouts. I was like so fascinated by the gains from it, and that holy shit, like I'm actually building some muscle from this, or at least maintaining it without having to lift heavy weight. This is fascinating. So, but then it started to impede the rest of my workouts. So as long as it is not taking away from the stuff that, because you cannot eliminate good barbell lifting, dumbbells, and body weight movements, good exercise like that should not be replaced. I think it's something that should be intermittently put in your program.
Okay. So you wouldn't do it on the trigger session days?
No, and I experimented with that. I had a test group experiment with it, and it was less effective. The key with the trigger session isn't to send a loud muscle building signal. Yeah. The key with the trigger session is to maintain the signal that you sent the day before. Right. It's a different mentality. So I'm not trying to build muscle with this. I'm just trying to keep that signal that we know now through studies that protein synthesis signal starts to really die off after about 24 to 48 hours, sometimes 72 hours. So what I'm trying to do is just kind of keep it up, keep it elevated, make sure that my body's priority is muscle adaptation or muscle growth. So when I'm doing the exercises, it's relatively low intensity. All I'm trying to do is get a little bit of a pump. Yeah. And you do this frequently throughout the day. And it'll blow you away at just how effective it is.
We should tell people that are listening, because most people obviously that are listening on your show don't have the program, that, we have found that we have to tell most people to back off because they want to get after it. Yeah. And that's not the idea of it. The idea, like Sal's saying, is you're just trying to send that signal. You'd rather kind of weigh on the lighter, easier side than getting after it. You save that.
Do you ever do concentric only sled stuff on those trigger sessions?
You can actually.
Yeah. I'm a fan of that.
Yeah.
Our other program, so MAPS Performance, is our more mobility or geared towards the athlete. So the same trigger session concept, which is every other day, that is in MAPS Anabolic. In MAPS Performance, we do mobility type stuff.
And so we'll incorporate stuff like that.
Dynamic work, exercise, things like that.
Yeah, because the eccentric is what causes a lot of damage. But really, if you start to understand that all you're trying to do is send this this adaptation signal to your body, and you realize that there's other ways to send it besides just breaking muscle down, you can be quite effective with your programming. And so once I realized that, once we incorporate these frequency builders, I mean, it was a game changer.
Yeah.
You notice, literally, when you do trigger sessions, you'll notice by the second or third one of the day, you're getting better pumps. It's a trip. Like all of a sudden I'm getting, like I'm doing 10 reps with these bands and my biceps are just blowing up. And then I go into the workout the following day where I'm going to my heavy workouts and I am stronger and I've recovered faster. And I know a lot of really good coaches talk about active recovery, but I think this is probably why active recovery is so effective. It's just keeping that anabolic signal, just maintaining that muscle building adaptation
blood flow
signal.
And nutrients,
all that stuff.
All that. So there's lots of the benefits that
stuff.
you're getting with that. But mobility is what we address more in the performance program. And then we have the similar concept. So all the programs have that kind of foundation, right? We have these major foundational workouts where we encourage people to work 3 days a week. Then you have these in-between days, and then the MAPS Performance, which is the athletic program, has got more mobility-driven type stuff on the trigger type days. And then our MAPS Aesthetic, which is all about look, which was inspired by the way I trained to get ready for a show. We have what are called focus sessions. So these are high reps, low weight, focused on areas you're trying to develop. So let's say I'd hit a show.
I like how you looked at my little arms. Bring those up, son.
No, I go to a show and a judge would say, hey, man, you look great. Your shoulders could use a little bit more work or whatever. And so this would now, you pick one or two muscle groups, they become the focus on these off days. You're not doing major lifts. You're not deadlifting, squatting, overhead pressing. It's not your big barbell movements.
Machines and cables are great on these days.
Yeah, this is where you incorporate machines, cables. We're not trying to do a lot of damage. Again, we're just trying to send the signal and keep that going. So each program has that kind of formula and everything's phased out. So you're only running an adaptation for 3 to 4 weeks before you phase into another one where we move from low reps and heavy weight into a more, moderate, like 10 to 12 reps, and then you're 15 reps on. So all of them are built around that concept.
Got a couple questions on that. So there's a lot, as you obviously know, there's a lot of ways to set up 3 full body sessions.
Yes.
You can have all max effort day, all dynamic effort day, all rep day. You just have heavy, medium, light days. You can do all 3 of those in one session where you start with a jump, then do something heavy, then do rep stuff. Have you guys do it all, or do you prefer one of them?
So we phase our workouts between 2 to 4 week phases. So what we've found, so there's, like you said, there's a couple different ways to do it. What a lot of people try to do is they'll do heavy day, medium day, light day, all within the same week. What we found better success when you focus on a specific form of adaptation for a 2 to 4 week period. So I am focusing specifically on, let's say, phase 1, like MAPS Anabolic. It's more of this maximal strength, central nervous system adaptation, we'll call it. I'm training within the 1 to 4 rep range. And the reason why we like that is because your focus is singular. It's very measurable. The body, it adapts in very specific ways in the sense that if I ask my body to adapt lots of different ways. For example, and this is an extreme example, if I'm asking my body to have tons of endurance and tons of strength, I'm not going to get either one. I'm going to get a little bit of each. And so we do phasing in the sense that we focus on a specific adaptation for 2 to 4 weeks. Then we move on to another phase, which is different, complementary and progressive, but it's different. And then we focus on that phase, then we move on to the next one. So our basic program, our foundational program, MAPS Anabolic, does the first phase is your central nervous system adaptation, what we call it, low reps.
You said you're doing 1 to 4 reps. That's on everything across the board, all 3 days?
That's it on all 3 days, absolutely.
Now, something that's important to note because
there's different exercises and
some that
it's probably some of it's sub-maximal. You're not smashing
there you go.
Every day. Yeah.
I'm heading right where I know your brain was going because the thing that we always have to coach to, because we encourage people to stop two reps short of failure.
Yeah.
So we do not encourage people to fail. There's a place for intensity. There's a place to push to failure, but it's
for the most part, no.
It's way overused. It's one of those things. It should be a tool. It should be implemented intermittently into your routine. If you're coming in on these foundational days and you're hammering the shit out of yourself, in 2 days you're going to be fucked up. You're not going to be able to do it again. But if you're stopping 2 reps short of failure, when you come into that workout, that foundational day, you should feel good. You shouldn't feel. And we try and tell people that when you're really sore like that, that's more of a sign of overtraining than a good workout. So we're looking for that fine line, right? You want to push yourself, but then at the same time too, you're not overtraining, so it's hindering. And that's how we tell If it's hindering your next foundational day, you went after it too far. You're always trying to do as little as possible to elicit the most amount of change.
And the cool thing is studies now are showing, there's actual studies on this showing that when they compare groups of people, they'll take one group that trains to failure and another group that stops just short of it. The group that just stops just short of it gets better results. Yeah, you're able to do more work. You're able to train more frequently. Yep. Your central nervous system doesn't take this hammering and this beating.
You feel so much better.
Yeah.
You remember those days, like in the 90s, and while you're the next day you can't even get out of bed.
Right.
Like you get hit by a truck.
No, and that's defeating. It's actually counterproductive. So no, we recommend people don't go to failure in their workouts. We recommend, like Adam said, about 2 reps short of it, and that allows for the increased frequency and the results. You come in. It's not unheard of for people to, add 50 pounds to a lift within a 2 or 3 week period within those low rep things because their CNS is really starting to adapt and they're giving it enough rest, but they're training it frequently. It's pretty mind blowing.
What we try to do is we try to build, through all of our experience and studies and research and where we're at now, the most solid foundation for people. But even with that, we still encourage people to mold and learn about themselves. So like we paired a private forum to go with the programs. So like if someone enrolls in our program, like this month, actually we do this for free. Normally we charge, but if you get a program, you get this private forum where the 3 of us are in there every day and we're talking and answering questions and people are shooting videos of themselves and we're critiquing form. But we tell them, follow the program to a T. But then from there, learn to mold and move. And so that's what inspired the YouTube channel. The YouTube channel are these 3 to 5 minute quick one exercise. We teach you stuff and then we pair it. So like in the video, you'll see the color and it matches a program. So that exercise is designed to be implemented somewhere in that program and you can choose to pull it in and out. You want a different exercise, you want to do something, you notice your body responds better to front squats than it does a hack squat. Well, here, put that in here. So we built you a foundation to tell you, which is based from science and our experience. But then from there is individual variance, and we do think
which is huge. You cannot count out individual variance.
It was the greatest challenge of building something on the internet. I mean, that was like one of the things that we all said. We spent a year before we even started to monetize the business and said, we're not going to just write some workout and sell it online. Like we have to, 1, make sure that it's solid. And then 2, we got to tell people that, everyone is unique and different. And the idea is that let us teach you. So the idea of the program is really to teach you the science. Like I didn't understand adaptation and phasing and how important that was for myself to see results because they don't market that way. It's not sexy. It's not cool. So that was like, okay, we're going to educate these people. And then from there, you can mold the program and add to, take away, because everybody is.
Well, that's a beautiful place to be when you kind of know your body. You've been training for a long time and you've probably reached that state now where you know what to do for yourself. You know what works good for your body. You know,
a couple smart guys, I guess, are going to come in and tell you how to train. You fucking know how to train.
Exactly. That's a great place to be. And if people could get to that point, man, it's magic.
Yeah. How often do you guys personally and how often do you program deloads?
So as far as deloads are concerned, because the workouts are phased, that kind of takes care of the deload.
It's got a natural deload.
It's kind of got its own built-in kind of natural deload. You don't necessarily need to schedule it. But I will say this. When you're training and you're training hard and you're progressing very quickly, the best time to change gears is when you're hitting your peak. You don't want to change gears when you start to see it drop off. That's a big mistake I made early in my training with myself.
Totally. I had to learn that.
And with my clients. Like I would be like, oh my God, I'm getting stronger. I'm going to push up harder. I'm getting stronger.
We're all being honest with ourselves at this table. It's still a challenge, right? Because when you hit a PR,
100%.
What do you want to do the next time? Just maybe I can get 5 more out or 10 more.
And the next week I walk in, Jen's like, what the fuck did you do?
Right.
Exactly.
So we admit, and we talk about this all the time, so I know damn well if it's a challenge for me, and I know the goddamn science, I know for sure millions of people are struggling with the same thing. So we always try and encourage people, listen, you hit a PR, you have the most amazing workout of your life. Don't try and follow it up with the next amazing one. That's your sign that, hey, good man, you progressed. Great job on your program.
Take a step back.
Regress now. Now it's time to back off a little bit, and then you can throttle back up again. So,
and from training athletes, I should have learned this myself. Like I apply it to the athletes, but with me, I just thought I was invincible. So, like if you look at a pro football player, they might start training in February, and it's easy. It might be unilateral stuff and slow tempos, and they build up, and then they train to July or August, and they just do maintenance throughout the season, and they might take 2-3 months off. And I'm like, man, I'm going 52 weeks a year, balls to the wall. And these guys are pro athletes with genetics way better than I do. And there's a lot of pro athletes that literally train like 4 months out of the year and still get great results. So I think everybody does too much, too hard.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because even if you apply that, you can apply that to everything, right? Apply it to nutrition. we're finding now that when people do a fast or have a low protein day, this is unheard of now in the muscle building world, but if you schedule in low protein days, you will find that your body becomes more efficient with the protein that you eat and you'll get more out of it rather than constantly feeding yourself protein all the time. This is true for exercise as well. When you're hammering yourself all the time, you start to get diminishing returns. When you schedule in those, like you said, deloads, or the times when you take a break and you come back, it's incredible what ends up happening. I mean, one of the most anabolic states anyone's ever been in are, bodybuilders and competitors post-show. After they've starved their bodies and they reintroduce food and they train differently, and then things start to pop on. So that's something that's important to consider with all of these things, and especially with exercise.
Yeah. Let's talk about nutrition a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate we don't have a ton of time. I feel like I could talk to you guys for hours.
We're having a great time.
Back to training for a second. When did you guys cut back to 3 days a week? Because I've done 5 days, 6 days, 7 days. And I remember when I cut back to 3 days, I was like, it's like I'm on an anabolic.
Exactly. So for me, so I did the body part split thing. I hammered my body. I did lots of over-the-counter designer steroids back when you used to be able to buy them. And, I'd get some results and then they'd regress. And I thought, I just hit my genetic limit. And I bought a book by, what was it? Dinosaur Training. Who wrote that book?
Brooks Cubic.
There you go.
96.
God, you got the authors.
Yeah.
Really.
So I read Dinosaur Training, and he talks a lot about frequency. And strength has always attracted me. I've always been interested in strength. So I like the aesthetics, but I also like the strength.
Yeah.
So I went into it thinking like, well, all right, I'm going to have some fun. I'm just going to get strong, forget about the bodybuilding type stuff. And I started increasing my frequency of training a little bit. And lo and behold, not only was I getting stronger, but I was looking better. And so that slowly progressed me to the point where I started researching the training routines of the old timers, of the old bodybuilders, the old strong, before creatine was invented. And I started kind of doing those kind of workouts. And I started with
Hackenschmidt,
all that shit.
Reeves.
Oh, great. Yeah. And I started with a very basic full body routine. Now, granted, I mean, keep this in mind. I had been training for years, and I had been told that those were beginner routines and they wouldn't do anything for me. But I ended up doing them, and I did just a basic barbell squat, bench press, row, overhead press, just a basic 3-day-a-week routine. Didn't train to failure, and I was blown. I think I gained 5 pounds in the first 2 weeks. It blew me away. I was natural. It just blew me away at the results, and that's what took me down this path of understanding that frequent. And there's nothing wrong with body part splits per se. I think it's just understanding that train the body more frequently is going to give you better results than training it less frequently with more intensity for most people.
Yeah, but how much of that do you think was the 3 days of hard training? Because for me, that's been no matter what, if I use a split, full body, whatever, if I train 3 days, I get better results strength-wise.
I find the same thing.
Yeah.
I find the same thing.
3.5. If I come in and do maybe one of your trigger sessions or a little bit more, like a 20-minute arm and shoulder workout or something. 4 hard workouts I can't really do.
I train 7 days a week, but when I always tell people, because I like to go to the gym. I like it part of it. It's my routine.
Totally.
I like being there. Sometimes a gym day for me may be walking on the treadmill for 30 minutes, mobility for 15, meditating for 20. Yeah. So I always tell people, keep that in mind.
So how many hard days are you hitting?
I'm still only hitting 3 hard days. Okay. So I still follow our principles. And that really, that hit home for me before we got together, but Sal really drove it home when we first met and got together because he had completely committed that way. I dabbled in it because I realized when I started to back off all the hard training, I was growing. I started growing. It was one of those spurts that I hit in my 20s where I had been in a plateau for a very long time. And I thought, well, I've been here for so long. Let's try this. I know people are telling me I should back off. Let's actually try and do that. I remember peeling off 2 days and I grew. And I was at that moment, I realized.
Well, the big thing for you, I remember, was your leg training.
Yeah.
That was the big one where you started squatting 3 days a week instead of doing the 1 day a week.
Yeah. I'm 6'3" for the listeners. And, squatting is a long way down for me. And leg days would just crush me. I mean, I would just want to throw up. It was just. And that's because I was doing 20 to 25 sets of exercises and I'd be gassed. And then I wouldn't want to train my legs for another 6 days before I'd hit it again. When I realized I didn't need to do that, I could take those 20 sets and I could spread them out over 3 workouts. They grew. I mean, they just instantly exploded.
Yeah, you hear that a lot.
Yeah, I didn't feel nauseous afterwards. I felt great after my workout. I'm like, Jesus, when I put that together, that was a big game changer for me. But I still, enjoy going to the gym every day. I've just learned to listen to my body and say, okay, listen, I got after it yesterday.
Yeah.
Today needs to be more focused, more recovery type focus, where I'm either doing mobility, stretching, walking, or maybe touching one muscle group that I'm focusing on, things like that. My stubborn calves, train them 4 or 5 times a day, or 4 or 5 times a week, still won't fucking grow. So I might be touching.
I gave up with that video.
I did, right? At this point, I'm just like, whatever, they're not going to go anywhere.
Let's get some calf implants at this point.
Exactly. All right, so let's talk about nutrition a little bit. What were some just stupid things you guys experimented doing? I mean, we touched on it a little bit, and then what's your nutrition like now?
So I used to eat way too much protein.
Yeah, me too.
Way too much protein. I thought I needed 1.5 to 2 grams per pound of body weight. So I'm consuming 300 to 400 grams of protein every single day, and
just farting every 5 minutes.
Poor digestion. I wasn't getting the results I thought, but I was very stubborn with it, taking shakes all the time. And when I backed off on that and reduced my protein intake, I weigh about 190 pounds, and now I consume about 150 grams of protein a day.
Me too.
And
sometimes barely even that.
That's right. And better results.
Yeah.
Actually build more muscle. I've got more room for carbohydrates and fats. My digestion is much better. And I seem to use the protein a little more efficiently. It seems to go more towards muscle, whereas before, I mean, you know what happens. You eat 300-400 grams of protein a day, you're turning it into, glycogen as if you're eating carbohydrates, but it's a nasty process that causes lots of, gas and issues with digestion and all that stuff. So, once I reduced protein, man, that was a game changer for me. The other one was the meal frequency. When I took my 6-7 meals a day and cut it down to 2 or 3, I mean, my energy levels went up. I felt amazing. I didn't have to, of course, the stress of carrying food. It was like I broke chains.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I became free of the chains of carrying food with me all the time, or making sure I had a shake with me or a bar. Like I could skip breakfast and go about my day and then eat a decent sized lunch and get the same or better results. Like, you got to be kidding me.
When I see someone carrying around a protein shake or a Tupperware of food, I'm like,
you know what?
I'm mortified.
We just recently, who was it that we just interviewed that dropped the knowledge on the protein shake post workout in the 20 minutes?
So here's
a knowledge bomb.
So the whole post workout window, you got to have anabolic window. It's largely been proven false. Now, unless you are going to exercise again later in the day and you need to replenish glycogen faster, your body will replenish things just as fast if you have a meal 2 hours later. But here's the interesting thing.
Remember the saying was, as soon as the bar hits the floor in your last rep, you got to get it in.
It still happens. When I walk in my Gold's Gym, I mean, I work out at one of the meccas in Northern California, and it's like tons of pro bodybuilder guys in there. And every time I walk in, there's at least 5 dudes inside the bathroom, ripping the shake out, racing to get in there to get it in, and this blew my mind.
Yeah, so we started working with a gut health expert, Dr. Ruscio, fascinating gentleman, and we were talking about gut issues and how common they are among athletes. One of the reasons why athletes are so common to have gut issues is intense exercise, in particular when you're overtraining, does a number on the gut microbiome, so it kills off good bacteria, lots of gut inflammation, and it's worst right after you work out. So right after you work out may be one of the worst times to eat food right afterwards.
When you think of the flight or fight type of mentality, like we train super hard, you're using all your limbs, so the blood leaves the gut, goes to all your limbs.
In fact, if you train hard enough, you'll want to throw up or shit yourself.
Which we've all felt. Right? We've all trained that hard where you feel nauseous afterwards.
And so you've got this kind of inflamed state in the gut, this fight or flight thing that's going on. You stuff your face right after you work out. It's a recipe for disaster, and it can cause issues like leaky gut syndrome, where the cell wall becomes more permeable. Now the food that you're eating gets in your bloodstream when it shouldn't. Your body recognizes it as a foreign invader, starts to build antibodies, and now you're 35 years old, and I used to be able to drink whey shakes, and now I can't have whey anymore because I have an intolerance to it. Or I used to eat this food all the time, but now I can't tolerate it anymore. Maybe I'm just getting older. Probably not. What's probably happened is you've conditioned your body to build up these antibodies toward these particular types of food. So
a lot of getting older is just us fucking ourselves up over the years.
So you fuck yourself up for 30 years, bro. That's why.
Yeah. So especially if you have gut issues, one of the worst things you could do post-workout is eat food. And what may even be worse than that is pound a protein shake that's quick digesting, that probably is flavored with sucralose.
That's how they market themselves, right? How fast can it get into your system?
Right.
It's like, well, if you actually think about it,
you want something that's going going to slow down because you don't want that, these gut issues to happen. And, your protein shakes are flavored with sucralose, and we know sucralose is not good for gut flora. So it's like this perfect storm. Intense workout, which isn't necessary, which puts you in this state. Post-workout, you slam this chemical shit drink and you cause yourself problems. And I'll tell you what, of all the friends that I have that have been in fitness for 10, 15 years or longer, almost every single one of them has got issues with digesting food now.
Totally.
It's an epidemic.
Do you think there's anything to sometime after you train getting some carbs in because of the immune response?
What do you mean?
Like, so after you train, there's been some stuff, I think maybe Chris Master, John, maybe, don't quote me, but like replenishing glycogen so your immune system doesn't take a dip after you train.
So this is what's interesting about that. So the immune system takes a dip when training is probably a little too intense. Mm-hmm. But exercise in general, if you look at just working out while you're working out, right before and right after, for all intents and purposes, it's bad for you, honestly.
Yeah.
If you examine what happens during the body, you're getting all these inflammatory chemicals and markers through the roof. You're causing lots of damage to the body, stress hormones through the roof. It's not
temperature actually goes down.
Yeah, it's not necessarily a healthy thing that's happening.
Right.
The healthy thing that happens is the adaptation to that particular thing.
Yeah.
Eating right afterwards to offset that, I'm not quite sure I'm sold on that. I think and I always look
to me, it's a similar mentality as the ice baths right afterwards.
Yeah, like, I'm going to get in an ice bath to fight all this inflation.
Right, there's benefits to that if you're an athlete who has to perform the next day.
Yep.
But for someone who's actually trying to build muscle, you want that inflammatory. You want that.
You don't want to blunt that too early.
You don't want to blunt that.
Yeah.
But if you're somebody who's, if you're a basketball player or a pro athlete, tomorrow you got to go swing a bat again.
Right.
Like, we don't give a shit about you adding 2 more pounds of muscle.
Yeah.
So I think it's very.
I always go back to how humans evolved. We definitely did not have food available to us all the time. And we definitely did very, very extreme forms of activity intermittently, whether we're chasing down an animal or we're getting away from something, and we didn't have food right afterwards. So the human body learned to adapt under those types of circumstances. And I think we run into problems when we change that completely and think this is a better way. It all goes back to, if we kind of work around how our bodies evolved, we're going to do better. We're going to do better with that. And like I said, eating right after, not necessarily a problem if you eat food right afterwards. But if you have gut issues, like a lot of people do, you're probably better off waiting a couple hours to have your next meal.
How long would you recommend?
I wait about 2 hours. I wait about 2 hours after my workout. Now, I may have a meal an hour or two before that, but yeah, afterwards, no, I wait and I feel so much better.
Aside from the gut issues, there have been people who mention that for fat loss or any aesthetic benefit. Do you believe in that, or is it mainly just the gut issues?
No, in fact, for fat loss, the case could be made that
to push it out.
Yeah, to fast a little bit because
after training,
that's what I'm saying. Yes.
That's how I would recommend it based off of a goal, right? If your goal would be to lean out, then I'd say, well, stretch out your meal then. I mean, you trained already, like you're trying to lean out. The body's probably tapping into fat as its primary source of fuel now because you've depleted all your glycogen. So don't eat until you have to, and then when you do, then that to me is going to help out that person trying to lean out. If you're trying to build muscle, then the basic generic recommendation I give is when you're hungry. You don't need to rush home and do it. I don't think it's going to kill you either to go have a meal when you get home. I don't think it's worth giving advice that stay away from it. If you have gut issues,
then that's when you probably should have went.
And you train that hard, then that's another thing. But you know what? And I think that's how you just listen to your body. Like when I've trained before so hard that I'm nauseous. Yeah. Like the last thing I should do is pound a shake then. Let that settle down a little bit. Then when I'm hungry, then probably eat, which is probably somewhere between anywhere from an hour to 2 hours later.
You just fit it in with your, because we know how fitness people can be so OCD. So if you say that, then but I have a business meeting, that's the only time they can eat. And I've been waiting for 18 hours or whatever.
Well, and again, even if your goal, me being an aesthetic guy, I'm always focused on building muscle, but even that, one day of stretching a meal out 4 hours I used to feel that way. I used to think muscle was falling off my body, oh shit, I didn't eat my protein.
I wasted my workout.
What's going on?
Well, and I tell you what, competing, I did enjoy this part of competing because it helped me articulate what's really happening in the body when we see these fluctuations on the scale, because that was the mind fuck for me, because my body loses and holds on to water really. I can just fluctuate 9 pounds in a day. Jeez. Which is mostly water, I drink a ton of water and my body holds it, releases it really quick. So, but being a skinny kid who was trying to build muscle, nothing was worse than getting up in the morning and seeing yourself lighter than what the day before was.
Yeah.
And that would freak me out, and I would attribute that to, fuck, I missed that meal. I didn't get it in,
Right.
Where it's like, dude, relax, what I'm saying? Like, muscle did not, in fact, it probably did me some good. I probably maybe shredded a little extra body fat because I missed that meal or whatever, not lost. Because people don't realize that muscle is a very expensive tissue. The body does not want to burn it. It does not. You really got to push it in order for that to happen.
No, it'll adapt. It'll reduce muscle to adapt to make you more efficient if you're training for endurance or whatever. But you're not burning muscle. That's one of the last areas the body goes to when you're starving is actually muscle.
Yeah. So you eat 2 to 3 times a day?
So you know what?
A little more.
Well, he's a big guy too. I don't know. I mean, how would you get that many calories in 2 meals?
Yeah. So I will go as much as 4 and 5 and as little as 1.
Okay.
So I incorporate fasting. We did a YouTube video not that long ago about undulating your calories. So I'll have a day where I might only eat 2,500 calories, and I'll run and have a day where I eat 5,000 plus calories. So I'm constantly manipulating that all the time. Probably because we could definitely go down the rabbit hole.
And then that goes back to what you said. It's kind of natural. Like if you go back to caveman days, you weren't eating a set number to set meals every day. And everything.
No. And you find people. So like, especially if you're dieting, if I'm at let's say I'm aiming for a 500 calorie deficit every single day, I'm more likely to get metabolic adaptation or my metabolism is slowing down if I do that every single day versus having some days where it's 1,000 calorie deficit, some days where it's maintenance, some days where it's surplus. At the end of the week, it evens out to the same thing.
Right.
But I'm going to fight that or at least mitigate that potential metabolic adaptation, which people don't take into account. And that makes up a huge, like I said earlier, I've had competitors come see me who hour cardio day, eating 1,000 calories a day. And if they eat anything over that, they gain weight. Your body can adapt pretty strongly in that direction. Undulating calories really seems to mitigate that quite a bit.
I think I speak a lot to food rotation because when I got into competing, I realized that was probably the biggest issues I saw with these guys and girls that were eating the tilapia, asparagus, and white rice or whatever like every single day.
Yeah. The same. Got my meals planned out. They all look the same.
And so I talk a lot about the benefits of that. Probably
#meal prep.
Yes. Probably one of the most paradigm-shattering things for me didn't happen that long ago, actually. It was about a year and a half ago, not long after we had Dom D'Agostino on the show, which if you're familiar with him, he's the leading researcher on ketogenic diet with NASA and stuff. And then Sal decided to go keto right after that. And he goes, hey, let's play around with being keto. And I'm like, I eat 400 to 600 grams of carbs a day. Why the fuck do I want to go keto? That doesn't sound good to me at all. Like I get to enjoy all these foods.
Right now I'm where you were. I eat 400 to 600 grams of carbs a day. Well, no, I'm not as big, nowhere near as big as you. I eat like 3 to 4.
Yeah.
But everybody that I talk to lately is like, you gotta try keto.
Oh, bro.
I did it from 96 to 98 with the anabolic diet from Di Pasquale and Dan Duchesne's Body Opus.
So
how did you feel when you did it back then? Were you eating enough fat? I think a lot of people don't eat enough fat.
Totally, I know that. Yeah.
So that was a paradigm shattering moment for me because up until that moment, I had definitely, even though I pieced together we were all eating too much. I think we can all agree we were all eating too much protein fucking 10 years ago for sure. So we had fixed that. I knew better than that by now. I hover somewhere between 180 to 200 grams of protein a day. And for those listening, I'm a 225 to 230 pound guy. So not a lot of protein for my size compared to my peers. But the paradigm shattering moment for me was when I went keto, what I was fascinated with was how little of fat that I was consuming and how amazing I felt when I started to increase my fats.
Okay.
And so that was the takeaway. So I
heard you guys talk and you said you got to really crank your fat up, right? You told them that?
Yeah.
So when I first did it, I had a bad response. So imagine.
Because you just did low carb, which is different than.
Yeah, you feel terrible.
Right. Imagine a guy who was having 600 grams of carbs, right, every day pretty much, to all of a sudden telling him none. And then I went from having probably 50 to 80 grams of fat to having 150. It was nowhere near enough. I had to get myself all the way up to almost 400 grams of fat.
Holy shit.
Before I started to flip the other way and become more fat.
I would imagine you'd have to do that slowly though. You're pissing out of your ass, right?
Yeah. Of course, yeah. I had to slowly work up to where I was pushing that much.
Wow, you went up to 400 grams of fat? Mm-hmm. That's crazy.
Yeah, I got all the way up to 400 grams of fat. Well, you got to remember.
Is that what you hit about now?
No. So now I would say if you were to classify my diet, which would be very hard to do because I'm all over the place. I'm probably like a cyclical ketogenic diet, kind of like what Dr. McCullough recommends, fat for fuel.
Okay.
Where I run a high fat, low carbohydrate, but then I intermittently have big carb days. But a big carb day now for me is like 300 grams, 250. 250, 300 is what I would consider a huge day. Where before that's me cutting for a show. Like I would never drop below 200 to 150 grams of carbs, even heading into peak week. Like that was a low carbohydrate day for me. Where now, there's days where I only have 50 to 100 grams of carbs. I feel complete. But and I can tell that my chemistry has completely changed. I've become fat adapted. My body runs better off that.
Talk to me about inflammation and brain function.
That was
huge
the game.
Improvements.
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
For me, as I get older, that's really that's why I want to.
And I noticed a difference, and you'll appreciate this being a podcaster. Not long ago, because I went on the bulk and I hadn't bulked up since back when I was competing, I had started reintroducing carbohydrates, and the first thing I noticed was the cognition. Like I would be podcasting, and I get these moments where I get stuck. And I had brain
all the time.
I had brain fog, and as soon as I went back to the low carb for a while, like that was the first thing I noticed was mental clarity. So mental clarity, inflammation, skin, sleep, all those things.
That's what I need. The reason I struggle with it is because I did low carb for so long and I could never get lean. And then at 40, I finally got visible abs doing high carb. So I was like, fuck. But I'm definitely moving.
Yeah, I mean, of course, you got to look at calories.
Yeah.
But you probably weren't eating adequate fat. Totally. And also consider it's not for everybody. Here's the other thing, too. The individual variance between how people react to nutrition can be so dramatic. It's incredible. You know who Rob Wolf is, and he's got a book, Wired to Eat. And he talks about these studies where people are wearing these continual glucose monitors and to see how people's glucose levels and insulin levels are responding to food real time, which is fascinating. We've never been able to look at that. We have a glycemic index, but you can pretty much throw the glycemic index out the window now that they're doing these studies and finding that the individual variance is ridiculous. You could literally have someone who will eat an avocado who will have a higher glucose response, an insulin response, than if they eat a cookie.
Yeah.
And they're not quite sure why, but some of the theories are that it may be an immune response. They may have developed some kind of an intolerance to that avocado, and that causes cortisol spike, which then causes the liver to release, all the sugar, and now that's why they're having this poor reaction. So individual variance is massive with nutrition. So, try ketogenic, see how it works for you. You'll learn from it, but it might not be for you as well.
The reason why I don't like ketogenic and why I always have to tell people when we talk about it, because there is lots of benefits to it. What I found was I started going, and why I speak to food rotation so much is I found myself migrating to the same 10 foods. Okay. Coconut oil, butter, avocado, fucking steak.
Bacon.
Yeah, there was this core 10 foods. And I remember, because I track all my stuff because of the competitor in me, I'm big into tracking and paying attention to all that stuff. And I would look at it and go okay, this can't, inflammation is down. Yeah, all these things are great. But if these are my main foods that I'm always rotating, I'm missing out on a lot of good color, a lot of good things that I should have in my diet that I know that I would feel better. And then just limiting myself to that. So that's where I kicked myself out of the ketogenic diet. But what I took from it was my body definitely performs a lot better on a higher fat and a lower carbohydrate. And so now I have this kind of nice little even balance. And it's just a give and take. Some days I'll run a really high fat, almost no carbohydrates. Then other days I'll have kind of moderate carbohydrates and moderate fat. And I just kind of flow in and out of that. And I feel
it encourages diversity in your microbiome. It encourages your body to operate better. We probably evolved eating a diet that was cyclical. Yeah. I'm sure cavemen at some point were keto because that was their only option. And then when there were vegetables and fruits around, why am I going to go hunt this dangerous animal when I can just eat this? And so they were probably vegan for a little while. And the body seems to work really, really well on that type of variety. This is why we recommend, even if you're focused super heavily on muscle building, on having a vegan day. Yeah. In fact, we brought this up with Ben Pekulski, who's a IFBB pro bodybuilder.
Ben's buddy of mine.
Oh, great dude. Yeah. And I brought that up to him. He's like, oh, that's what I recommend all my clients. And I was like, oh shit, here's a pro bodybuilder saying the same thing.
He's one of the few though.
One of the few.
He's one of the few like that.
Adam, Sal, my new friends, it pains me to say we're out of time. I enjoyed this so much. I would love to have you guys back next time you're in town. I feel like we talk for another 4 hours.
Excellent.
I apologize, we got to go, but thank you guys so much. Tell everybody where they can find your stuff online, where they can follow you.
So our podcast is Mind Pump. You can find it on iTunes. Our YouTube channel is Mind Pump TV. There's a new video every single day. And then the social media platform that we use the most is Instagram. The podcast page is Mind Pump Media. And then the three hosts all have our own pages. I'm Mind Pump Sal. He's Mind Pump Adam. And then Justin, who's not here, is Mind Pump Justin.
Awesome. Thank you guys.